Hello and welcome to New Jersey Politics with Laura Jones. I am Laura Jones, and we have a special show for you today. Former Governor Jim McGreevey made headlines nearly 20 years ago when he resigned as governor in the infamous "I'm a Gay American" speech. Now he's getting back into politics and has made a major announcement about his political future. We're taking you to that announcement from Jersey City, where Jim McGreevey says he's ready to serve the people as their mayor.
I'm a little grayer. It's Mayor Sag laughing. I just wanted to start out and to think about where we are and why is this day important in the life of Jersey City. And if I can, to share a personal anecdote. You know, when Jacqueline and I moved from the Boulevard to Garrison Avenue, I had the occasion to walk down Stuyvesant down to Holy Name Cemetery, where my grandmother is buried. My grandmother died at a young age in childbirth, which had a profound impact upon the family. And on her tombstone, her name is third down on the stone. They were a poor family, a working class family. And I think to myself, how many individuals, how many young women also confronted those same challenges. And for the past several years of working with the New Jersey Reentry Corporation, I've had the opportunity to work with women, whether behind the wall, men and women coming home, looking for a different way of life. I came to Jersey City to find our home, to find our roots, and to find that sense of meaning. And with New Jersey Reentry Corporation, I've been blessed to understand the importance of second chances, to understand the necessity to help individuals achieve their better angels. And so as my parents came from Ireland to Jersey City to look for a better way of life, so too do so many. You know, I've worked inside government and outside government. And outside government with the New Jersey Reentry Corporation, I see the frustration, the challenges of people trying to be part of the great American dream. And as mayor, I control property taxes, I encourage private investment, I attracted businesses and manufacturing jobs. And in Woodbridge, we built a tremendous community center. And as governor, we worked to fix MVC, Easy Pass, auto insurance, but I can't do this alone. We need the community. We need all individuals coming together to understand that individuals and communities get the government for which they deserve. I believe that Jersey City deserves the best government. Yes. And with your help, with your support, we will provide that government for every neighborhood, every family, every individual in this great city. Thank you. David John Clute.
We're here at Jim McGreevey's announcement. Let's talk about the elephant in the room right now. Jim McGreevey is back. What did you have to say? What do you think about his candidacy coming back as a former governor now running for mayor of Jersey City?
Well, one, I'm thrilled that he's back. He was a great public servant. And even when he left, he served the public, treating people with reentry and, you know, bringing people back into the system, reducing recidivism. He found his cause, but his cause, he really is a public servant. He was a very good mayor. I thought he was a good governor, and he's a friend. And I'm here in support of him. I also represent the Ironworkers Union in New Jersey, and we are endorsing him today also.
Can you talk about perhaps any political aspirations you might have now as well? Care to comment on that? You've got a governor's race coming up in 2025.
I'm giving real thought to that, and you know we'll be making an announcement at some point whether I do or I don't. But I'm seriously considering it.
We appreciate you for taking the time to talk to us here at this big announcement. Jim McGreevey is back, former Senate President Steve Sweeney. So stay tuned for that. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
I'm here with former state senator Bill Baroni, and it's kind of like deja vu all over again. It's like almost no time has passed from 20 years ago. Jim McGreevey throwing his name back into the campaign trail, going back as mayor for Jersey City. When you heard this was happening, what were your thoughts?
Well, I wanted to be here and support Jim. You know, public service is about serving the public. And whatever role Jim has had in his career as a legislator, as a mayor, as governor, it's always been for him about serving the people. I think the folks in Jersey City have an opportunity to elect someone who's every single day going to go out and work for every neighborhood in this great city.
I think there's nobody better in Jersey City that will serve the residents of this community 7 days a week, 24/7. I mean that, Brenda, sincerely. He'll be hardworking, he'll be honest, he'll be sincere, and he'll be out here every day on the bread and butter issues in Jersey City. Nobody will do a better job than Jim McGreevey. Nobody.
Was it difficult convincing the governor to run again, because he had said that he wasn't interested at one point in running again?
In the beginning it was. In the beginning it was. He said to me he wasn't interested, but I said to him he's done his contributions with reentry. He's done a lot of great things out there, and I think this is the right time.
What type of message do you think, he picked a restaurant, and he's talked a lot about second chances, putting that right out there into the campaign, which could also open him up for a lot of criticism. What are your thoughts on how he's just being very open and honest about the mistakes that he's made in second chances?
I think he's doing the right thing by admitting what his mistakes were in the past. I think nobody's perfect in this world, and I think by him putting it out there and addressing it head on, I think is the best thing he could do. And I think people are very forgiving. He didn't do anything where he didn't admit to, and he admitted to that, and he's moving forward, and he's committed to public service.
Well, can I just get your thoughts? It feels like homecoming week for people who have covered New Jersey politics for a long time. What are your thoughts seeing Governor McGreevey now running for mayor?
So Jim McGreevey gets government. He doesn't need on-the-job training. He's done this before. He knows both branches because he served in both branches as well. He knows the train's got to run on time. He knows the streets need to be clean. They have to be safe. So as a fellow mayor, someone who also understands what needs to get done, he knows what needs to get done. He's going to get it done as well.
Listen, Jim McGreevey is a friend. He's been a great advocate and a great leader in his own right. He supported me in dark times and in good times, and I am a loyal person. I want everybody through the state to know that. I don't fence hop. I stand on my beliefs and my convictions. Jim is a great leader, and I think he'll do a phenomenal job.
You've got somebody who has experience as a mayor of Woodbridge. You have somebody who has experience in the legislature and experience in the executive. Can you tell me how you think he would lead as mayor of Jersey City using all of those skill sets? How qualified does that make him? Does it make him almost overqualified?
No, it doesn't make him overqualified because he keeps a reach and a touch with the community. When you are always active in the community and understanding the needs and the resources that the community needs, you'll always do a phenomenal job. That's what makes great leaders.
Were you surprised when the word started getting out that people were contacting Jim McGreevey? People in Hudson County, other mayors were saying, hey, you need to put your hat back in the ring. You need to jump back in. Did that surprise you?
No, not really. It was a shock that he would run for mayor. But it's never a shock when you have a great leader, a great man that understands the needs of the people, understands how to galvanize troops, and understand the everyday needs of the working families.
And I think as a reporter who's covered Jim McGreevey as mayor, as governor, in the legislature, that is the one thing that you see. He's very dedicated to what he does. He takes that very, very seriously. Can you just talk a little bit about that part of him? And also, we're here at a place where somebody had received clemency. It's about second chances.
Right. Absolutely. Life is all about second chances. Life is about making sure people know that they have true fighters and leaders that will help them and reach their hearts and the soul. It's about compassion. It's about empathy. It's about public love. And that's what he shows everywhere he goes with Second Chance and giving them different avenues to see life in a different way.
Coming off of a 2-year loss from COVID,
Yes.
right? 2-year loss of COVID. A lot of parents were getting involved with school board elections yesterday, and it isn't necessarily about gender wars. It's about closing that gap in that 2-year loss of education. Schools had their hands full before this. So can you talk a little bit more about how you plan to address that? More partnerships with charter schools, school choice. How do you address that here in Jersey City?
So what I think what we need to understand is the importance of early childhood literacy. And I can't overestimate that, because if a child can't read by the time he or she is in third grade, it's literally almost over. If you look at this longitudinal studies, it's a debacle. And so we have to understand the importance of reading as a cornerstone of our efforts. And that's what I'm committed to. I'm committed to working with the school district, but we need to understand the importance of reading, not just in schools, but outside of schools. When children go home, I mean, like, the old-fashioned turn off the television and read. We need to use all those programs that are disposable, that are or free, that are accessible, but we need reading coaches, and we need to promote reading in our libraries. We need to promote reading in our home. We need to understand that public education, particularly for neighborhoods that just the people who live here just can't pick up and move to the burbs. I mean, they live here. This is their home. And I want to make sure that every child has access to quality education. I want to make sure every child has access to the American dream. And that's not only an education, that's that's what we do at New Jersey Reentry. We take people who, candidly, because of broken systems, we work our backsides off to help them put their lives together. Think of what we could do if we had that child from 7, 8, 9, or 10. We could transform their lives, transform their families and their neighborhoods.
And then just to follow up on that, as children get into high school,
Brian's
a lot of
gonna
the
get me on it. I'm not saying anything.
but as skill centers and other things, as they finish high school, not everybody, as you said, is able to go to college or wants to go to college. So what about that part of the education?
We do that every day at New Jersey Reentry, whether it's HVAC, whether it's CDL, whether it's welding, whether it's phlebotomy. I mean, people are making a good living, so it can't be go to college or work in a warehouse. That's nuts. Try seeing how much a plumber makes. And so but we have to connect people to the skills. And the reality is for people, the reality is that for people in the city, so often they don't know how to connect themselves to that training. And that's, I think, a legitimate role of government, to connect them to that training so that they will have that meaningful quality of life.
Micah Rasmussen is the director of the Rebovich Institute for New Jersey Politics at Rider University. He also served as spokesman for former Governor Jim McGreevey and is a regular contributor here on the show. We're so happy to welcome Micah Rasmussen back. Good to see you.
You too, Laura. Thank you.
Well, we've got a lot to talk about recapping the election night, but another headline, because in New Jersey, it's always about the next election, and that next candidate to declare is your former boss. Former Governor Jim McGreevey has decided he's going to run for mayor of Jersey City. So I've got to get your take on this candidacy.
Well, it's a little bit of a surprise in that I think 20 years ago when he left office, nobody would have predicted, least of all him, that he would be running for another office someday. But in another sense, it's not really a surprise because all of those who have known him and worked with him know that he has a lot to give. He's very public-minded. He clearly has spent his post-gubernatorial years dedicated to making life better for those who are getting out of prison and, really the state at large. And so it's not a surprise that he feels like he has something that he needs to continue to give and that he sees an opportunity to give and to serve. And so in that respect, it's not really a surprise at all.
Well, and then I would imagine, because he has been mayor, not of Jersey City, but of Woodbridge, he served in the state legislature, he served in governor. I would imagine, that's about as qualified, forget where you agree on politics, but that's about as qualified as you get when it comes to effectiveness of a mayor.
Yeah, I hope he won't mind me saying this, but we used to think of him as the governor, the mayor of New Jersey. And what I mean by that is his approach to being governor was very hands-on. It was very much being in command of all the details. He was the spoke and the wheels were, sort of all around him. And he wanted, I remember when we had the great power outage in the Northeast, we moved, for the first time, they moved the governor's office and his command to the state police emergency operations center in Ewing. He was on the phone with the power companies and with mass transit every hour on the hour. He wanted to know if everything they'd talked about had been done and what was going to be done next. And he sort of made for the job of being mayor. He sort of made for the job of making sure the trash is getting picked up and making sure the snow is off the ground. Those are the details that he understands more than anybody else that that's what keeps people happy. That's the competence that they expect of their government. And that's really what he excelled at in Woodbridge. And it's really what he did well as governor. I think more than anything else, those are the things that he could sink his teeth into.
And there are people who have been aggressively trying to convince him to run. This isn't, at this point, this doesn't look like an ego play, so to speak. He doesn't necessarily need the spotlight. And that's one of the things as a reporter, whenever I would speak to him, is sometimes it would be hard to make a personal connection because he really was focused on the job.
Yeah, you're right that I think a big part of this is that he's not somebody who's going to be looking to run for higher office. This is it. It's not a stepping stone. This is an opportunity that he sees to serve. And you're right, other mayors in Hudson County have said, we think you would be good for this. And so he's responding to that. Now, let's be very clear. He's not going to clear the field. There is a Hudson County Commissioner, Bill O'Day, who is very connected in the community for a long period of time, very popular, who is also going to be running and going to be announcing that he's going to run. So this is going to be a big choice that Jersey City residents have, and it's a nice choice to have a choice and a nice thing to be able to choose from between two good candidates. But certainly McGreevey has something to offer. If I were living in the community that he was running for mayor, I certainly would be excited about the prospect of having a hands-on mayor like him.
Yeah, just one final question before we jump to the 2023 election recap, and that is the scandal under which he resigned. How do you think he's going to navigate it? How big of an issue do you think this is going to be? Because certainly he had to have thought long and hard about this. He's not just making this decision as a whim. He's thought long and hard about it.
Yeah, so we've had him back at Ryder in the years since. He doesn't really talk about it very much. And I think the reason he doesn't talk about it is because he's come to peace with himself. He's moved on from it long ago. He is not living a closeted life. I don't think that he believes that this kind of thing could happen to him again because he's living this true life, this authentic life. And so, I don't know how much it will come up in the race, to be very honest with you. I think to the extent that it does, he should be very clear about it, very straightforward about it. He should be very frank with voters about it. This was a different time. This is a time when he felt compromised in his life. He's not there now. And so this is not something you have to worry about happening again.
Yeah, it's going to be a fascinating campaign to cover and to watch, especially for political junkies like yourself and for me. Looking, though, to the most recent election, it was a big night for Democrats. They picked up seats in the legislature. And when you look back at the governor's race 2021, Jack Ciattarelli almost beat the incumbent, Phil Murphy.
Right.
Republicans made gains, so you would think they would have been poised to do a little bit better than they did. What's your take?
Yeah, so they were victims of their success of 2 years ago. Republicans were. And what I mean by that is that they sort of set off all the warning bells for Democrats. When you're the party in power, you don't want to be caught off guard. And they were caught off guard. Steve Sweeney was caught off guard. Phil Murphy was caught off guard. That wasn't going to happen again. They were prepared. They got their warning shot. They made sure that they had driven out every early vote that they could this time for the weeks leading up to the election. They left no stone unturned. They were not leaving anything to chance. So Republicans did very well 2 years ago, but that really said to Democrats, hey, you better be prepared this time. And they were.
Yeah. How much of it was the Democrats being prepared, and how much of it was messaging, and what is happening at the national level with the abortion overturned at the Supreme Court? How did those messages filter down? Because the Democrats ran on abortion, and the Republicans were more about parental involvement in the school. So how did that factor in?
Right. Well, the issues that Democrats talked about, very simple, in the final analysis, worked to drive out their voters. So they figured out how to speak to younger voters and more female voters about abortion rights. Now, a lot of people said, well, abortion rights aren't really threatened in New Jersey. I never really understood how pro-life politicians thought that that was going to be okay to say to a pro-choice voter, it's okay to vote for pro-life candidates because abortion's not threatened in New Jersey. It's a good shot. I mean, you've got to take a shot. You've got to figure out something to say. but I don't think it was logically consistent. It's okay to vote for people whose interests are contrary to mine on an issue that I really care about. And it didn't work. Democrats were effective in figuring out how to talk to their voters about abortion rights and people who oppose them in the legislature. They figured out how to do that. They figured out how to drive out their vote on that. On affordability and the anchor rebates, they figured out how to talk to their voters. They figured out how to talk to them before Election Day and then on the early vote. And then they figured out how to talk to enough of them on Election Day as well. Republicans talked about their side of the culture issues as well. Parental notification, like you say, the cost of energy and renewable energy, as you say. But those issues did not succeed in motivating enough of their voters to come out to counter. So you can say that those were less successful. They both were sort of talking past each other. They both wanted to talk to their supporters, but Democrats figured out how to do it more effectively than Republicans this time.
Was there any particular race that stood out to you? We before the election, we had talked about what was happening in South Central and Northern New Jersey. And let's start in South Jersey, where Ed Durr, who had upset Steve Sweeney last time, lost to John Bersacelli, who was also, so was a former legislator. Was that surprising to you, or was that kind of 50-50 go either way?
It was a surprise. The thing is that that district is pretty conservative, and it's always been conservative, dating back to the time of Senator Ray Zane was the most conservative Democrat in the legislature and represented that district. It's been conservative for a long time. So the question was going to be, was Ed Durr their cup of tea? Once you really got to know Ed Durr and some of the positions he'd taken, some of the things that he'd said on social media about women and their rights to have an abortion and keep your legs closed and things like this, very unfortunate things that he'd said, that by the time the Democrats got done with him, he was an unacceptable choice to the majority of that district. So I don't know if it was a surprise, but they told people who he was, and people didn't like what they saw. So that was a race that didn't go well for Republicans. Republicans didn't win next door in the 4th district in Gloucester County, which they were hoping, having a redrawn district, more Republican district, they would do well there. They came up empty. So this is a big night for South Jersey Democrats, a resurgence for them after losing some seats badly over the last couple of election cycles. Big for them.
Yeah.
Democrats really won almost every targeted race or the top targeted races across the state, no matter where they were, in Bergen County, in Northwest New Jersey, the central part of the state, in Monmouth County at the shore with Vin Gopal. They didn't really lose anywhere that they targeted. And in fact, maybe the biggest single surprise was that a member of the Orthodox Jewish community in Lakewood, which is very Republican and very conservative, ran as a Democrat, convinced enough members of his own community, Avi Schnall, to vote for him out of Lakewood, and got such a massive vote out of that community that for the first time, Democrats are going to have a seat in the assembly from that district, from that Orthodox community, which is almost really just unprecedented.
Right. That has been a huge headline. And the other one who you mentioned was Vin Gopal. Not necessarily that he won, but he won by such a huge 20 points. It was
20 points, 60-40, massive, a landslide, really.
Yeah.
He's calling it a landslide, and he has every right to call it that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what happened there, Laura, and we know some of the people who helped Vin on his campaign, people that we've worked with, Sean Darcy, we mentioned the governor's days, Laura Matos, they were some of his consultants. And clearly, we don't want to take anything away from the candidate. It was the candidate's race. But what they did in this race was really interesting. Vin Gopal knew 2 years ago, when his assembly running mates got knocked out, that the Republicans were coming for him this time. He worked every minute of every day to deliver results across this district. He delivered money in the state budgets. He delivered legislation that they needed. And so what he did in this race was he almost ran an individual town race in every district, mailing out to the individual homes in every town and telling them, this is what I've done for you in your town. And it was very effective. I mean, everything they did just added votes onto that margin. Denistrian was not even above 40%, which is, sub 30s, so that's unheard of.
Yeah. And I guess final thoughts, the big winner is Governor Phil Murphy. But he wasn't
Yeah.
out on the campaign trail, but a huge, because historically in a midterm, often those who are in power lose. But
Very,
he did
very
not.
good point. Very good point. One of the only other governors to defy the midterm math was Governor McGreevey. He beat the expectations in his midterm, and Democrats picked up seats in his midterm. That was at the very beginning of the legislative majority. This is a very old, mature legislative majority now that Democrats are sort of still adding on to. So it's got to be considered a big win for Governor Murphy in the 6th year of his time in office, that there's not Murphy fatigue setting in, that's not translating in the polls. One of the people who I would count as a winner on an ancillary basis is his wife, Tammy Murphy. Should she decide to run for the U.S. Senate, you've got to think that the Murphy brand holding up is going to be something that will matter for her as she goes to the different county organizations. The county organizations aren't upset at Phil Murphy that he just cost them some seats. This is a partner who has helped them gain seats. And so I think Tammy Murphy is going to find a receptive ear when she brings the Murphy brand around to the county organizations.
And that's in New Jersey. It's always about the next election, and we will end it on that note. But Micah, thank you so much for taking the time to recap this one, look a little bit ahead to Jim McGreevey, and also touch on the race for U.S. Senate in New Jersey. Good to see you.
You too, Laura. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And that will do it for today. I'm Laura Jones. Thank you so much for watching New Jersey Politics. We look forward to seeing you back here next time.